Today in ISRO we have created a capability that up to 24 to 30 satellite launches are really possible theoretically, but that much are not really happening because of various reasons of demand creation not reached up to that level. And this is something which we are looking at from private, from public, from government, how to create more demand for satellite based applications. In India there is huge potential today and we are making it ready. Even our rocket manufacturing, this many numbers, we have to find out how to do it in much faster. Recently you would have heard that we have contracted our PSLV building to private companies to increase the rate of building and launching, and this first rocket will be launched this year, and I believe subsequently they should be in a position to build more frequently and launch more frequently. Similarly, our SSLV has been launched successfully, and we would like to see SSLV taking shape to launch at least 12 to 15 launches in a year itself. So these are some of the goals that we have put. I think it will happen in few years of time. Okay, there is an interesting question. Mr. Bhavya Shah is speak about Gaganyaan program. I think Gaganyaan program is interesting program. He wants to know whether there will be only one Gaganyaan launch or more launches will happen. Now, there's a very important question we ourselves asked, whether we want to just launch and show that we can launch a human beings to space and be happy with it, or should we convert that whole possibility into a future. I think I have already told that we have a long-term plan now for Gaganyaan, that we call it a continued access to space by human beings, Indians, and we are going to have that for various reasons. And finally, we will be building a space station, going to moon, etc. So it's going to be there, and he is interested. What path should one follow to be part of it? Of course, you can be an astronaut, but you can be part of it being in the ground also, being part of the development team, design team, the operational team, support team. I think there are many roles that you can play, or even a scientist who will design an experiment for the astronaut to perform and get the results. So there are different ways of supporting. I said that you can be a part of the ISRO, or you can be part of the industries that will finally make use of such services. So there are different ways. Since as I answered already, I don't want to explain it further. Mr. Talhan Varnasi, he asked a question. How does ISRO plan to leverage public-private partnership to further India's space faring endeavors? Very interesting question. I think in space sector, nobody would have ever dared to ask this question long back. We would have thought that space is such a secret thing and only government should do, and all information related to that should be kept very secretly. I think all those narratives have changed now. After the space sector reforms happened in 2020 and the space policy of 2023, you know that everybody in India is empowered now to work in space sector, irrespective of the domain. And if a company which is an authorized company who has a rightful interest owned by Indians approaches us to hand over technology of space and make use of the facilities of ISRO to build a new space system, it should be allowed. That's a rule, that's a law now that has been passed. So we should look for people to come and work in space sector. And in private-public partnership, there is something which is very important. It's an economic model of how to build systems. So public comes because the government funding and ISRO is coming. Private comes because there are industries and companies who want to join. Financial institutions can join. And this is something very important, and some models are available. ISRO, we are trying to build this model now for building our future rockets, the NGLV. We are also looking at how the launch vehicle Mark III, which is the biggest rocket, now have to go to industry production. PSLV has already been moved, but LVM3 also has to go. This model, we would like to do it in a public-private partnership model, where the stakeholders like the industries, the users, everybody will come on board. They will take their share of work and do that work and then build the rocket and launch as a company. With the NSIL, New Space India Limited, as at the forefront, the public sector undertaking of the Department of Space, ISRO as a technology provider, and the industries as the funding institutions as well as the responsible shareholders. They will be able to build this rocket and launch. So we already worked out an overall architecture of this, and it will be happening soon. Of course, there is a question from the Seema Garg. She asks that recommend me some best space books related to cosmology or something else which will help me as I am still 15 years old. Teen, okay. And 15 years is a very good age for reading and understanding space. I think you are no longer a very young kid. You can understand much of the space technology and space science and create a right type of interest at this time. So, since this is not a forum which I can talk about books, because you will not find it easy to read, what I will do is I will post some list of books with its cover page a little later. So, for different age groups, for school children and little they are into the entry to the college, the right type of books that you should be able to read in multiple domains. For example, some of them are very story like books which will generate the enthusiasm, interest in the subject. Some of them will be specific to the domain. For example, if you want to understand how satellites function, how they are designed, there is one type of book. And if you understand the entire cosmology, the evolution of the universe, and to understand how the latest theories are driving you to understand the universe, but it will not talk about space technology. So, there are different types of books which you should read, and as a student I encourage you to read first the one which will generate more interest in you, then you can go to the technology books later. Once you have gathered sufficient interest, and you have to choose what you want to do. There are books written by retired ISRO people, there are books written in India itself, sufficiently good ones, including reasonably high-end technology which will be which can be read only after you have reached some engineering level, not at the school level. So, I will post it little later and you wait for it. There is a question from Abhijit Das. He says, what is the potential for privatization of space sector? I would like to tell you that the concept of privatization doesn't arise at all. The question is, it should be how is the private participation in space sector? I think this is very important. I think this is already very high. The most of the manufacturing of the space sector, most of the suppliers for it are from the private sector. About 85% of the money that we use for launching is actually spent in the private companies. They are only the one which are value adding this to make the rocket today. But what is more important today for us is to have companies or industries who will be having end-to-end capability. For some companies who want to design a rocket, will there be a rocket tomorrow? Some company wants to design a satellite, will he be able to do it, and on its own capability will it be possible? This is something which we want to ask and then create in this country. We want space companies to come up who have a largest skill sets to handle the demand of the space sector. I think this is happening now. With the support of technology collaboration that is happening, and also acquisition that can happen from foreign countries, the foreign direct investment that can flow to this based on the opening up of the space sector, the whole participation of private entities in space activity is going to increase, and this is also going to happen with the possibility of more and more services in space sector which will become economically viable. Both should go together, then only it's going to happen, and we are looking forward to create the right type of environment for them to sustain and survive. Okay, Krishna Swami, he asked a question. He heard about Exposat. I think you are aware of Exposat. And are there any more missions to study for interstellar and intergalactic space? See, there are many things that you need to study in space. Interstellar observations are important, like the one which is done by space-based telescopes, the Hubble, the James Webb telescopes. They look at that. Our AstroSat has been looking in multispectral domain through exactly the same thing. We have done that. Exposat is for a specific purpose. Exposat is looking at the polarimetry of X-ray radiations coming out of black holes and pulsars and twin stars, especially when they are eating into the nearby stars, and the type of X-ray emissions, and you can quantify the mass accretion, mass being pulled through the X-ray polarimetry. So, there are specific topics that we want to understand through designing a right type of instrument and launch, and this is the very interesting part of space. Simply putting a camera in space don't give you every observable data. And it is not possible to make an instrument that will see you everything in space. It's not possible. So, you have to select what you want to see. We are thinking about many space missions. We are first interested to understand about planets. First thing is about planets, because they are our nearby members. They should know about them. For example, Moon we have been exploring. 3 missions we have done. Mars we have done 1 mission. Now, Mars we should go deeper and understand. We have to land on the Mars and conduct some in situ experiments to give us more insight on Mars. We want to go to Venus.